The story you're about to hear was erased from the books. Buried. Silenced. And the reason why will leave you speechless. A black woman saved millions of lives, revolutionized modern medicine, and changed the course of science forever. But nobody told you her name. Nobody told you that without her, you might not even be here today. Brace yourself, because this truth is far more disturbing than you imagine. It was an ordinary morning in 1951 when a 31-year-old woman walked into Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. She was feeling unbearable pain in her abdomen, bleeding that wouldn't stop. Her name was Henrietta Lacks. Mother of 5 children, field worker, descendant of enslaved people. She didn't know it, but she was about to become immortal. Not in the way we dream about, but in a way no human being should ever become. That morning, doctors removed a piece of her cervix. An aggressive tumor, violent, devouring her body from the inside. They collected cells. Just a tiny fragment of tissue. And what happened next changed everything. Henrietta's cells did something no human cells had ever done before. They multiplied. Doubled. Tripled. Grew without stopping. Outside her body, in the laboratory, these cells simply wouldn't die. They were immortal. Scientists were shocked. For the first time in history, human cells survived and reproduced indefinitely in culture. It was a revolution. A miracle of science. But there was a problem. A deadly problem that nobody wanted to face at that moment. Henrietta Lacks died on October 4, 1951. Her body was consumed by cancer. She was only 31 years old. Her children were orphaned. Her family plunged into poverty. But her cells kept living. And while Henrietta was being buried in a grave without a headstone, without a name, without recognition, her cells were being sent to laboratories around the world. Scientists called them HeLa cells. A code. A nickname that hid the true identity behind them. Nobody knew who HeLa was. Nobody asked. Nobody cared. In the following years, these cells did extraordinary things. They were used to develop the polio vaccine that saved millions of children. They helped understand how HIV attacks the human body. They were fundamental for advances in cancer treatment, Parkinson's research, creating medications against herpes, leukemia, and flu. They were sent to space to study the effects of zero gravity. They were cloned, frozen, commercialized. Billions of dollars were generated from these cells. Pharmaceutical companies got rich. Scientists won Nobel Prizes. But Henrietta's family? They didn't even know this was happening. Leave a comment now. Do you think it's fair to use someone's cells without consent, even if it saves lives? For over 20 years, nobody told the Lacks family that Henrietta's cells were being used. In 1973, more than 2 decades after her death, her children discovered the truth by accident. A researcher called them asking for blood samples. They wanted to compare DNA. Only then did the family understand. Their mother was alive. Not as a person, but as immortal cells scattered across laboratories all over the planet. And they hadn't received a single penny. They hadn't been consulted. They hadn't given permission. Worse still, many of them didn't even have money to pay for health insurance. While the world profited from Henrietta's body, her descendants suffered without basic medical care. What happened to Henrietta Lacks exposes a terrible truth about the history of medicine. For centuries, black bodies were used as experiments. Without consent. Without respect. Without humanity. In the 19th century, doctors practiced surgeries on enslaved black women without anesthesia. They believed black women didn't feel pain the same way white women did. Black bodies were stolen from cemeteries to be dissected in anatomy classes. Black children were purposely infected with diseases to test treatments. And even in the 20th century, this violence continued. The Tuskegee case is one of the most well-known. For 40 years, between 1932 and 1972, black men were left untreated for syphilis, even after the cure already existed. The doctors wanted to study the natural progression of the disease. They lied to the patients. Let them suffer. Let them die. Just to observe. Henrietta Lacks was part of this story. She wasn't the only one. But she was the one who most impacted science. And even so, she was forgotten. Erased. Reduced to a laboratory code. Her full name only came to light broadly in 2010, when journalist Rebecca Skloot published the book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. It was this book that brought the complete story to light. And revealed not only the scientific advancement, but also the brutal injustice that surrounded all of it. Now comes the part that will give you chills. HeLa cells were commercialized for decades. Companies sold vials with these cells to researchers. Each vial cost hundreds of dollars. Today, it's estimated that more than 50 million tons of HeLa cells have been cultivated. They're in almost every important laboratory in the world. They've helped in more than 75,000 scientific studies. Generated billions in profit. And Henrietta's family? Until 2023, they hadn't received any kind of financial compensation. It was only in August of that year that an agreement was reached between the family and a biotechnology company. The terms of the agreement are confidential. But the fact remains, it took more than 70 years for there to be any kind of tangible recognition. But it's not just about money. It's about dignity. It's about a black woman's right to have her story told. Henrietta Lacks wasn't just a body. She was a mother. She was a wife. She was a daughter. She had dreams. She had fears. She felt pain. And she died feeling pain. Alone. Frightened. Without fully understanding what was happening to her. Her children grew up without her. Some of them developed serious health problems and didn't have resources for treatment. Meanwhile, their mother's cellular legacy was saving lives on the other side of the world. Henrietta's story forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. How far can science go in the name of progress? Who has rights over our own body? If your cells could cure diseases, would you donate them? What if nobody asked you? What if they profited from them without telling you anything? These questions don't have easy answers. But they need to be asked. Because Henrietta's case isn't isolated. Even today, human tissues are collected, stored, and used in research. Often without patients knowing exactly what purposes. There are enormous biobanks with genetic samples from millions of people. Some donated consciously. Others, not so much. Henrietta Lacks deserved more. She deserved to be remembered not just as a laboratory code, but as the woman she was. She deserved to have her name printed in biology books. She deserved for her children to grow up proud of the mother who saved the world. She deserved to be alive to see the impact she made. But history chose to bury her. Just like it buried so many other black voices. So many other contributions. So many other lives that mattered, but were treated as disposable. Today, more than 70 years later, we're finally starting to tell the truth. Universities created ethics committees. Rules about informed consent were strengthened. The Lacks family gained a voice. They gained a seat on committees that decide how HeLa cells can be used. It's a beginning. But it doesn't erase the past. It doesn't give back the stolen years. It doesn't bring Henrietta back. If you made it this far, you already know more about Henrietta Lacks than most people in the world. And that matters. Because every time we tell this story, we're doing justice. We're saying that black lives matter. That black women matter. That their stories deserve to be heard, honored, celebrated. Henrietta can't speak for herself anymore. But we can speak for her. We can ensure her name is never forgotten again. The next time you hear about a revolutionary medical discovery, remember Henrietta Lacks. Remember that behind every scientific advancement there's a human story. And many of these stories were written with blood, pain, and injustice. We need to know these stories. We need to honor them. Because only then do we build a future where science advances without leaving anyone behind. Henrietta Lacks changed the world. Her cells are still alive. Still saving lives. And now, finally, her name is being spoken out loud. This is the story they tried to bury. But truth always finds a way. And today, that truth is yours. Share it. Comment. Subscribe. Because stories like this cannot die. If you think this is shocking, wait until you discover how many other stories like this are still hidden. Click on the next video. The truth is just beginning.